Hi yogis, and welcome to Radiant Heart Yoga. My name is Jane, and today I'm going to guide you through a class called Shoulder Shaper. And often when I'm working with my students in my classes, I find that particularly for women, they may not have as much upper body strength, but they're usually more flexible in their shoulders, whereas the guys, they've got much more upper body strength, but sometimes are lacking in flexibility. So this practice addresses both of those things in one practice. So hopefully there'll be value in it for everybody. And we're going to begin in child's pose. So it would help you to use a couple of bricks. I forgot to mention that. So coming towards the back of your mat and taking your knees, you can either take your knees wide, and that means you can get a little bit closer to the floor in your child's pose and it helps to open up your hips, or you can have your knees closer together and that's going to stretch into your lower back. So it's whatever you feel as though your body needs today. So coming down, and here you can use a brick or something underneath your forehead, and you can have your arms stretched out, or you can take your arms back towards your feet, whichever helps you to relax your shoulders and relax all over. And just let yourself be for a few moments. Let your body mould itself into this first shape, whatever that might look like for you. And start to notice what sensations you can feel physically, and whether you can just take your attention to anywhere that you feel tension or tightness or stiffness, depending on what you've been doing, and really relax there as much as you can. Soften around that area. And then begin to notice your breath a bit more. As you breathe in, each time you breathe in, this is an opportunity to increase your internal space, to create a sense of expansion inwards. And then each time you exhale, and we're breathing in and out through the nose, is an opportunity to let something go, to cultivate the quality of release. And your exhale also helps with that softening and that relaxing of anything physically. And just take a few more rounds of breath here, and then we're going to begin to move. So from here, coming up and bringing your knees a little bit more underneath your hips and hip width apart, and seeing if you can keep your hips stacking over your knees, which is easier said than done in this next pose, but Anahatasana. So it's a really big shoulder stretch, a little bit of a back bend as well. So you're going to start to lift your tailbone up. Your arms are straight, and you're pushing the floor down into the floor, and then lowering first your forehead, so it can be to a brick, or you can lower your forehead all the way down to the floor. And then as as you let your body relax into this shape, you may be able to start to drop your chest and your chin more towards the floor. The other thing you can do is come up onto your fingertips. So you start to work into your arms a little bit. Make it a little bit more active. And then from here, you're going to walk your hands up and come and sit on your heels. So I'm just going to turn round to face you. So you can stay sat where you were sitting, facing whichever way you were facing. But you're going to take your arms up and relax your shoulders down. And you're just going to make little circles with your arms. So whichever way you're going, doesn't matter. You're going to reverse those circles very shortly. And then start to go in the opposite direction. So just starting to build up some heat in the arms and in the shoulders. And then from here, you're going to take your arms out at shoulder height. I'm going to do that again. Okay. So I'm just letting you know that I've been doing a little bit of painting outside in the garden and managed to fall off the ladder. This is like about 5 days ago. I fell on my left side of my bum and on my coccyx, very bottom of my spine. So there may be a couple of things where it looks like I will be a bit uncomfortable. So I'm just letting you know that, so don't let that put you off. And you're going to start to circle in the opposite direction. Now, you may be able to feel that it's a little bit more effort now to do this. It seems quite easy at first. And then you're going to take your arms back up in the air, and now you're going to do little presses back. So just moving back and starting to open up a little bit more. So think about lengthening your tailbone and drawing your pelvic points towards one another. So you're almost doing a little bit of core work at the front so that you keep the movement in your shoulders and not the movement going into, or the opening going into your lower back. Okay, and then release. And just give your shoulders a little bit of release, a few little circles, and then inhale, shrug them up towards your shoulders, and exhale, slide them down your back. So you're going to come, well, you'll still be there, but you're going to come back to that child's pose. And I'm going to have my knees about hip width apart now. And then you're going to reach your arms out. And then, so this will be your exhale. So you're going to inhale and come forwards. And you're going to take your hands a little bit wider, maybe almost off the mat. And then we're going to do 3 little press ups and sit back into child's pose. And then you're going to keep your hands shoulder width apart and come forwards. And now they're going to be, your elbows are going backwards like little chaturanga, arms and then back. And then you're going to bring your thumbs and your index fingers together, come forward. So you're making like a triangle there, and these are the toughest ones. And sit back, take your hands nice and wide again. So we're going to do that again. Come forwards as you inhale. And exhale back. Hands shoulder width apart. Inhale. exhale. And then the last one's making your triangle shape between your thumbs and your index fingers. 1. And you could just dip like a little bit down and then come back. So I always like to lift the heels of my hands up when I want to release my hands from any work that I've done there. And then from here, you're going to come all the way down onto your belly. And you're going to stretch your arms out in front of you. And then from here, you're just going to lift one arm up and hold it. And then lower that arm down and lift the other arm. And lower that down. And then from here, you're going to lift both arms up, so your head's still down, and you're going to do those same little presses. This time it's upwards rather than backwards. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Release your hands down by your sides. Take a breath here. And then from here, you're going to come up and you're going to come into forearm plank. What we're going to do in our forearm plank is we're going to alternate side to side from forearm plank to side forearm plank. So you can have a little go, and it might be that you just stay in forearm plank for a few breaths and then move to each side, and you don't alternate side to side with the breath. So coming up into your forearm plank, and then I like to have my hand at a little bit of an angle. I'm going to roll on my feet and open this top arm up, and then exhale and switch to the other side. Okay, so you're alternating side to side, really warming up the shoulders. Good, so I'm just going to do one more on each side. And then I'm going to lower down onto my side, just inch myself towards the edge of the mat, and then I'm going to take my right hand behind my back. So I'm going to bend this right knee and lower myself down so that I'm lying on this right arm. So this is going to stretch into the shoulder as well as my wrist and my hand. And I'm just going to take a few breaths here and just let the heart rate come down. So those forearm and side arm plank alternating side to side, they're quite strenuous. So just let your body calm down a little bit, your nervous system. And then from here, I'm going to roll back to this side, and I'm going to bring this right knee up, and then I'm going to stretch my right arm out into a twist. So I'm releasing my right arm from it being behind my back and coming into a nice little twist. So you might need to slide something underneath this right knee. So I want my right knee, if possible, to rest on the floor or onto a brick. And then from there, I'm going to start to relax this right shoulder down towards the floor. And the action is of lengthening this right hip forwards, keeping the activity in this left leg. So it's like I'm stood on my left foot. And I'm just encouraging this right leg to stay grounded. And then the stretch is to keep all of that and start to relax my right shoulder towards the floor. Maybe even look a little bit across to the right. And then I'm going to roll onto my back and draw my right knee in towards my chest and take my left leg up into the air. And then I'm going to keep drawing that right thigh in, reach my arms forwards, big breath in. And as I exhale, I'm going to lift my head and shoulders. Okay, so a little bit of core work, so just little reaches. And then from here, I'm going to rock. That's the bit that I'm not going to be able to do. All the way up. And then from here, I'm going to turn back to the front into downward facing dog. So I'm in my downward facing dog. So just have a little pedal out. And then from here, I'm going to walk my hands back towards my feet. So you can have your knees as bent as you need to have them. And then I'm going to walk my hands back out to downward facing dog. So this is more about the shoulders and then back again. And back. And again, walk them back. And back. Okay. And then you're in your downward facing dog. And from your downward facing dog, you can shorten your stance a little bit. You're going to reach back for your left foot with your right hand and then replace that hand, okay? And we're just going to go a few times. One more. Brilliant. And then from here, you're going to inhale, lift your right leg up. And as you exhale, you're going to bring this right knee in towards your chest. Come high on your left toes and step your right foot forwards. And then from here, you're going to come into warrior one. So you're going to pivot your back foot, heel to heel alignment. And then from here, you're going to come up and keep squaring off your hips. So squaring your hips off to the front by drawing your left hip forwards and your right hip back. And then inhale, reach your arms up. And then adjusting your stance now, coming to what is your comfortable depth without letting your hips start turning to the left. And then your arms are up again and you do those little pulses back. Opening up through the shoulders. And then from here, you're going to bring your hands down and you're going to step, you're going to pivot onto this back, ball of this back foot, and you can do it in stages, or you're going to step forwards and pick up this left leg, bend your right knee and cross your left thigh over your right. So you can bring your toes down to the floor and stay here with your hands in prayer, or you can take your left arm underneath your right for your eagle arm. So this is going to work your shoulders. So you can hug your shoulders as well. That's another option. And then from here, maybe you can pick that left foot up and maybe you can hook it around to the back of your ankle. And hold it here, pulling your elbows forwards and slightly up to stretch into the shoulders. And then from here, you're going to unravel your arms, bring your hands to prayer, and you're going to slowly extend that left leg back and drop your chest down. So you lift your leg and drop your chest with the same energy, pushing back through this left heel, forwards through the crown of your head into Warrior Three. And then you're going to bend that right knee and step back, this time into Crescent Pose. So your feet are hip width apart. And then from here, you're going to inhale, reach your arms up. And as you exhale, you're going to keep this left arm reaching up, but you're going to wrap your right hand back, and it can come around to the waistband of your pants, or you can slide it down the outside edge of that left leg and maybe flip your hand over and hold the outside of that left leg, and then maybe hold the outside of your right leg with your left hand. So keep squaring off your hips, really lift this left heel, and then from here you're going to come back, bringing your arms back up, and then bringing your left hand onto your waist and start to tip to the left. And you can stay here, or maybe you can come lower and bring your left fingertips to the floor. And then from here, you're going to walk your hands over to the left and start to press your hips back and out to the right and come as low as you can. So it's a bit like a downward facing dog in your upper body. And then walk your hands back around this front foot, shorten your stance. This is where you might need your bricks, and straighten both legs. And just fold there just for a moment, releasing that front knee. And again, squaring off your hips. So you're trying to keep your pelvis level. And you can have your bricks underneath your hands. And then a little bend in this right knee. And you're going to take your hands behind you, interlace your fingers, and then straighten your arms, and maybe straighten this right leg again. So it's fine to have a micro bend or the same bend that you had before in this right knee. And then slowly release, fingertips to the floor, and step back into downward facing dog. And just take a moment in your downward facing dog. And then from here, you can keep your knees down and just take more of a gentle plank pose, or come into plank pose. And then when you're in plank pose, just start in a whole plank pose just for a moment while you get your engagement. So you're lifting your heels up and you're really engaging your legs. So you're lifting your kneecaps up so your legs are really active, and then lifting your navel up underneath your rib cage, tailbone towards your heels, and you're pushing the floor away with your hands, pushing the floor away, and you're wrapping your triceps back and your biceps forwards and hugging your forearms towards one another. And you can stay here, or you can do little taps. So you're tapping the opposite shoulder, and you won't be able to stop your body moving completely, but you're trying to not move. We're trying to keep the movement as minimal as possible in your pelvis. Just one more to each side, and then you're going to come back into your downward facing dog. So from your downward facing dog, you can repeat what we did on the other side, reaching back and finding that opposite ankle, Or you can add on, so you come forwards into your plank pose, reach your right arm forwards and then back. Reach it forwards and back, forwards and back, forwards, back, forwards and back. And then right hand down, forwards, left arm reaches forwards, exhale back for the opposite ankle. Ooh. And back, and forwards, and back. 2 more, and back. Last one. And back. And then walk your hands back into your forward fold. Breathe here. And then walk your hands back. And then walk your hands forwards. Walk your hands forwards again. And then from here, you're going to lower all the way down onto your belly. And then onto your side. So we're doing the opposite side this time. So from here, I'm going to scoot over towards the side of my mat. Take my left hand up behind my back, and then I'm going to lie on that arm. I'm just adjusting it so that I definitely can feel the stretch. So you can reposition your hands so that it doesn't bother your wrist too much, but you do want to be able to feel the stretch. So really opening up this whole area here. And I like to keep this left knee bent. So that your heart rate slow down. And hopefully yours is a little bit quicker. I know mine is. And then from here I'm going to roll over, release that left hand, and then I'm going to bring my left knee over to the right. Let that knee drop. So this is where you can use your props. You want your hips to be level at the back, one hip stacked on top of the other. You're lengthening this top hip away from your shoulder, and then reaching this left arm out to the left. And then your stretch is to release that left shoulder down towards the floor. So you don't have to look to the left. If it bothers your neck, you can look to the right, or you can just keep gazing up. Couple more breaths. And then from here, turning back onto your back, drawing this left knee back in towards your chest, bringing your right foot up, flex that foot, and then from here, keep hugging that left thigh in, big breath in, and as you exhale, coming up. A few little core reaches now. So it's as though each time you exhale, you're pulling your ribs and your pelvis towards one another. And then reaching your arms up, and I'm not going to do this, but rocking yourself up, and then using this left foot, turning back towards the front of your mat and spin back into your downward facing dog. And then from here, lifting your left leg up, big breath in, and as you exhale, come high on your right foot, bring your left knee in towards your chest, step your left foot forwards. So first pose, standing pose, is your warrior one. So pivot that right foot and then start to come up and then start to square off your hips. So you're squaring off your hips, so your left hip is going to start to move back, your right thigh and your right hip are going to, so your right thigh is going to move back, and your right hip is going to move forwards. And then reaching your arms up, pushing into this right foot like crazy, so keep your hips facing forwards, and then little pulses back with your arms. And then from here, bringing your hands to your heart, going to spin onto the ball of this right foot. And then you're going to push off this right foot, and you can do it in stages of stepping that right foot forwards, or coming up, bringing your right knee in towards your chest. And then from here, going to bend this left knee as you cross your right leg over your left. So you can bring your toes to the floor, so the more you bend this left knee, the easier it is to come into your eagle pose. And then from here, you're going to take your right arm under and drop nice and low. And then and you're pulling your elbows forwards and lifting them up slightly to get the stretch in your shoulder. And then maybe you can wrap this right foot so that it comes around the back of your left ankle. And then unraveling your arms, bringing your hands to prayer. Going to unravel that right leg and start to tip your torso forwards and push back through that right heel so that you come into your warrior three. And then bend that left knee and step your right foot back. Make sure your feet are hip width apart. So now you're in crescent pose. So inhale, reaching your arms up. And then as you exhale, you're going to take your left hand behind. And then maybe you can wrap that left hand around the outside of your right thigh and bring your right hand to the outside of your left thigh. So I'm still trying to square off my hips. I'm almost lifting this right leg up into my hand. Big opening for this left shoulder. And then inhale, come back to the front, and as you exhale, bring your right hand onto your hip and tip your left arm across. So you're in a side open. You can always lower this right knee to the floor if you need to. And then option here, if you can come deeper, is to bring this right hand to the floor or to a brick. And then from here, walking your hands over to the right. Hands are shoulder width apart, and from here, just going to push with your arms and press your left hip out to the left and back. And then walk your hands back. And from here, going to slide this right foot in and come into your pyramid pose. So this is where you can reach for your bricks and use your bricks underneath your hands and fold into this hamstring stretch. So you're trying to level off your hips. So this left hip's going to go back, up and back, and you're trying to keep the weight in this right heel. And you can stay here, or you can put a little bend in this left knee. Bring your hands behind you, straighten your arms, and you can stay here, or maybe you can re-straighten that left leg. And it's quite a balance. It's a lot of work for your legs as well as for your arms. And then release. And from here, you're going to step back into your downward facing dog. Just pedal out your legs a little bit. And then staying in your downward facing dog, you're going to bend your elbows and straighten your elbows. Bend and straighten, bend, straighten, bend and straighten, bend, straighten. Just one more, bend and straighten, and then lower your knees to the floor. And then from here, you're going to sit back. And this is where you may need your bricks. Well, you will need your bricks, something underneath your hands, just so that you can lift your legs up a little bit. So from here, you're going to push down into your bricks and pick up your knees, okay? And keep pushing down into your bricks to lift your knees, and then lift one foot up and down, the other and down, lift and down, lift and down, lift and down, lift and down. So we're just going to do one more lift on each side and lift and lower. So those are really tough on your arms and your wrists. So from here, it's taking your feet back to hip width apart, and then you're just going to walk your elbows forwards and bring your hands behind the back of your head in prayer position. And then from here, you're just going to pull back with your elbows as if you were dragging your elbows back along your mat towards your knees so that you stretch out your triceps. And then from here, you're going to slither your way forwards onto your belly. And then from here, you're going to reach your right arm out to the right. So we've done these together before. And then from here, you're going to start to roll towards this right hand. So I'm just going to move a little bit over to the left. So I'm looking to the left, but my right arm stretched out to the side. And then I'm using my left hand to roll my torso towards this right hand. And then I can stay here, maybe even have a little bend in the knees. So that takes the stretch out of the front of this right arm a little bit. Or stretch can be a little bit more intense. And then you can also bend that left knee and place your left foot on the floor. So it's a little bit stronger then. And just let your body get used to that stretch. So these are big shoulder openers. These are some of the best, these last two are some of the best shoulder openers that I have ever found. So this one is stretching the front of your shoulder, your chest, into your pecs, helping to encourage your shoulder blade to slide towards the middle of your spine, which we need in a lot of the movements to open up the shoulders, a lot of the back bends. And then maybe you can even bring your right foot to the floor. And the more you drop this left hip towards the floor, but I'm not letting my head lift off the floor. It's not going to be a safe position for your neck. You can take that left hand behind your back. And then some people, you've got to lift your head off the floor to do this. But if you can clasp your fingers I'm going to stretch into both shoulders at the same time. And then you're going to slowly release and roll to the other side. So shifting over to the other side of your mat, reaching your opposite arm out, and then rolling towards that left arm this time. So again, any of those options that you took on the other side. So I like to just let myself get used to the stretch in each of the different positions for a few moments. Just kind of testing the water. Is it okay to go any deeper? Do I need to go any deeper to feel the stretch? I mean, we're trying to keep the body balanced from one side to the other, doing the same thing on each side, but we're not the same on each side, and this is, you know, one of the ways that we learn about that. So it may not be possible to do what you can do on one side on the other, but that is what your body's teaching you, so that when you practice again, you can focus more on opening the tighter side, and that over time is what's going to bring you the balance from one side to the other. And then roll it back out. And the last stretch is now for the back of the shoulders. So, you're going to take your left arm in to your chest and then your right arm in front of your left. And you're going to reach your hands as far out to the sides as you can, so that the cross of your arms goes as far up towards your shoulders as possible. You're just going to relax your chin into this right, it'll be your right upper arm, and you can have your palms turned up or you can have your palms turned down. I can feel the stretch more with my palms turned down, so it depends whether you want to feel it more or you want to feel it less. And then for people who are quite open in the shoulders and want to feel a little bit more, to take this deeper, you can just curl your toes under and just walk yourself forwards without moving your arms until your forehead comes to the floor. And this way, you're using your upper body weight, the weight of your upper body, to increase the stretch. And then, if you've come forward, just walking yourself back and then switching. So now it's your right arm that's going to come directly in front of your chest and your left arm that's going to come in front of that. So just walking your hands out to the sides and getting them as equal away from the middle as you can. And then resting into the upper left arm. So just have that sense of the broadness across the top of your shoulders at the back. So you're pulling your shoulder blades are being pulled apart, protracted by the position of your arms. And again, if you want to take it a little bit deeper, I'm not going to do that on this side. Just walking, hinching yourself forwards and bringing your forehead to the floor. Just going to deepen that stretch. making a little pillow for your head with your hands. Just releasing your arms. And then from here you can stay here. You can press back into a child's pose, or you can roll onto your back and take your Shavasana. I'm going to give you another option here, which is the one that I'm going to take. You can turn your head to the side and take your arms down with your palms facing up towards the ceiling to release your arms and your shoulders. You can have something underneath your head. And let yourself relax deep level. And turn your head the other way to keep balanced. And then you can stay longer if you've got the time, or whichever position you're in, pressing yourself up and carrying on with your day, or maybe getting into bed and dropping off to sleep. But thank you for sharing that practice with me. I've got a couple of other shoulder practices you can take a look at, but keep, whatever you've found and explored in this practice with your shoulders, then you can deepen that by continuing to repeat this practice as often as you can, or looking at the other shoulder practices. So see you on the next video. Namaste.